Howdy, brothers.
Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey
and Schwatter.
Wow, you threw me through a loophole there. I was not expecting that. Welcome to another episode of Whiskey and Water. I am your co-host, Liv.
I'm your co-host, Jess. And we decided to take your guys' positive encouragement from last week and do a solo season, except for last episode.
Yeah, not counting the last episode, but we make the rules.
We make the rules.
We are the bosses. Okay, we can do whatever we want.
So yeah, we're gonna do a solo season.
That's what you guys are getting.
We're super excited for it. I feel like we needed a little bit of a change of pace.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, although I've loved every single guest we've had on
and so much value that they brought.
Yeah, I felt like we were kind of missing that like just personal sort of connection with you guys, because I mean, if you're an OG listener, you know that like
our first season was the last season that we did just us.
Yeah. And I hate the way I said that. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I was like buffering. But I felt like we really had such a deep connection with the brothers at that time because it was just us just talking just for an hour plus
just
straight.
Us airing our dirty fucking laundry.
Oh, guys.
If you guys ever want some entertainment, honestly, listen to our first season because we talk about like
the cringiest shit.
We talk about sex. We talk about our first times. We talk about my relationship. Like we talk about our friendship. We talk about the craziest stories and experiences we've ever had.
There's an episode with my ex on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's...
True.
We have
that wasn't even first season. That was like mid.
No, it wasn't. I'm just saying like in previous seasons, we have an episode with my roommate where we talked my old roommate where we talked about like worst roommate nightmares.
We have a few funny Halloween episodes where we did like scary stories.
Oh my god, like getting ghosted.
Yeah, honestly, if you're new here, just take a deep dive into the past 120 episodes that we've done. But we're super excited to be here with you guys. If you have ideas for episodes, let us know. We're already like so inspired by this idea, and like as I'm like driving, I'm like, oh my god, that's such a good episode topic.
Yeah, we're going to keep it less like female entrepreneurship. Like we're going to keep it organic to us, but we're really going to keep it within the realm of just like personal development and kind of just like just navigating our lives and what comes up for us organically, which kind of leads us into like what this episode will be about, which is coming correctly. No, okay, that sounds so weird. Wait, no, not sex. No, not sex.
And this episode is going to be about how to have an orgasm.
Inspired by the lack of sex in my life. No, I'm kidding, guys.
We should have an orgasm expert on.
We really should. I feel like we have. Haven't we?
No.
Maybe we'll discuss that. No, but we're just going to be talking about like, I feel like you guys, we use this term come incorrect all the time because people love to come incorrect.
Basically, that means not having a good sense of judgment and thinking you're entitled or
to someone's time or energy or resources.
Basically, this episode is going to be Whiskey and Water MBA on business etiquette.
Yeah, exactly. Like business etiquette, even like, I mean, just good life practices, even with friends, even with like, I don't know, anyone.
So much of what we talk about today is going to be applicable to other aspects of your life outside of your career, outside of your business.
Yeah.
What we realized is that we just always like every time we see each other, we just vent about these situations that we are put in where it's like people are coming incorrect.
Yeah. And like just asking for things that are just like, just for an easy example before we actually like dive into things, like someone asking us to post a reel in a post for like free because they're like a friend of ours. Well, not even a friend, an acquaintance. Like someone that we don't know that we met once is like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna give you XYZ and you're gonna post for it. And we're like, no, we're not.
Yeah, we're gonna deep dive into things, and what we chalk it up to is just a lack of awareness. Like I think a lot of people don't understand the industry that we're in, especially if you're not in it. It's just like there's a lot we're going to go over, but we try to give people the benefit of the doubt and that they just simply don't know any better. And that's really what this episode is for, because you might be one of those people who you don't mean to be coming incorrect, but you are, and you just want to be better. So this episode is for you.
Yeah. And even so, that's not to say that we never come incorrect, but we're also going to talk about that and how we try to mitigate as best as possible in industries that we don't understand. Because of course, if you don't have an understanding of an industry and you've never been exposed to it, it's really easy to make assumptions and, you know, just make assumptions in general. So we're really going to just go over all of those things. And obviously we have some great stories for you guys. Of course.
We're really going to try to incorporate more stories into this season because I feel like when you guys do reach out, it's usually relating to the stories that we share. Like you guys love the table flipping story a bunch, which is amazing. I feel like we should capitalize on that more. Like, why are we not saying fuck your table more often?
Yeah, right.
If you know, you know. I don't know what episode that was, but it's a table about how we were in a club and a table
that was in a club. Wait, no, you said that kind of right.
No, it was about a table. I don't know. I'm confused. It was about a time where we were in a club and I flipped a table. And that's just so...
And it got us kicked out of the club.
And it's just hilarious because that is so not a water thing of me to do. But it happened. True story. It's funny because I feel like if I said that in like 2 truths and a lie, like no one
would believe you. No one.
But it's the truth.
They'd be like, no, it was her. Yeah. It was the other one.
So yeah, this is going to be fully dedicated to business etiquette, really like the social skills on the social side of that. But we're really excited to get into that. Before we do that, we're of course going to do our segments, which we're keeping the same, at least for now. Who knows? We might change it up next week. But for this week, we have our deep dive and our high and low. So let's start with our low.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's a mutual low.
What?
Well, what's yours low?
I two lows, I guess.
Okay.
I could share that low as well. Okay. Do you want to go first for me?
No, you.
Okay, so my low at the moment is I'm on the cusp of a burnout and I can feel it.
Fun.
Yeah, you know, always keeping it real with you guys. And I feel like I even tried to like make a TikTok about this last night and I started it and then just exited out because I didn't have the energy. And that's also such a toxic thing about this industry. It's just like every opportunity, I'm like, this is good content. I should be making content about my mental breakdown, like literally. But no, it just seems like that this week was really busy. At least like because we make our own schedule, I try to give myself 1 day a week where I'm just like not obligated to show up anywhere and I'm just like home getting stuff done, working from home. This week just got really busy. I got a last minute shoot, which I'm so thankful for, but also it's like it just a lot got on my plate for this week and there's just a never ending list of to-dos and you feel like you knock 5 out and 10 more come on and that's like the most frustrating feeling. So we decided before we recorded this episode that Monday we are doing a mandatory paid day off for the whole mood team because we need it, our employees need it, and that's what we're gonna do.
Yes, so, super excited for
looking forward to that.
We never really do that like intentionally, so I'm very excited for that.
It'll be good.
I already have a massage scheduled that day, so
perfect timing.
Stoked, absolutely stoked.
Okay, what is your low?
I would say things have been pretty steady, pretty like okay, but I did start a new birth control, which I feel like has taken a toll on my skin. My skin looks absolutely horrible and
that always is never good for you.
No, it always like really fucks with me.
Yeah.
And it's been like super painful and just not fun, not flirty, not fresh.
Hate that.
It also has just been fucking with my emotions. And so, I don't know, I've just felt like super out of alignment recently. Like things that I notice wouldn't normally set me off are annoying me. And I've had to be very, very intentional about controlling my emotions and getting myself out of certain headspaces. Whereas, pre-birth control or, when I am in alignment, I, find it much easier to kind of stay at a even place.
And that's burning up a lot. That burns up energy.
Oh my God, it burns up.
Like just reeling yourself in and trying to like handle your
own emotions.
Yeah, that's like burning fuel.
No, it's a constant reeling right now for me. Like it'll be so I was driving the other day to an appointment and I was like, why am I so angry? I was just like angry at everything.
Yeah.
Like some guy pulled out in front of me and it wasn't even bad. I lay on my horn. I'm like, you fucking cocksucker. And then I literally go, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I'm like talking to the universe because I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put that out there. Like I didn't,
negative.
Yeah.
Energy,
I don't want to be that way. So, and I think it's just been, I think it's a mixture of things, being on my period, having the birth control, my emotions being all over the place, whatever. I snapped at Liv the other day. That's the low. I snapped at Liv. We had a little tiff to start off one of our shoot days. And honestly, it was just a misunderstanding. And again, it was me not being in alignment and allowing something that like wouldn't normally affect me. Or like I would have a clearer headspace and be like, oh yeah, she just didn't realize. And I like, villainized her in my head for a moment. And was like, useless piece of shit.
Yeah. No, literally.
And
I was like, I'm not lazy.
Yeah, she was just like sitting there while I was like getting shit out of Taylor's car. And I was like, hey, can you come help? And she thought that we were done like getting shit out. But I was going around the other side of Taylor's car to get shit out. And Liv stayed in the car. And I turn around and I'm like, did this bitch stay in the fucking car when I just asked her to help us? And so whatever, I got back in and she's like, I obviously didn't realize. And I'm like, but I asked you to help. And it just like literally so stupid. But, it set the day off kind of on a bad tone. And I didn't apologize in the moment like I should have. And it's always just like a shitty feeling reflecting on something and being like, ugh, that like,
it feels icky.
It feels so icky. It's like not who I want to be. I never want to, make the people around me, especially those I love, feel less than or feel like shit. Like it is something that like truly affects me, like how I make others feel. Like that weighs very heavily on me. So whatever, we talked it out after and we were fine, but imagine like we weren't like of course we talked it out and we're fine, we're here. But yeah, that was my low because it was just an icky feeling. But again, it was a learning moment for me, if anything. And we're all just doing our best and evolving and trying to learn from experiences, and that's all we can really do.
Yeah. And I think like obviously our relationship and our friendship is so important that we can like have those conversations, because we got over it. It was fine. We went on with our day, had a great shoot day, honestly had a really great rest of the day. It was super positive, super fun. We took Taylor to an influencer event with us,
and given right after that moment, I was like, oh God, I need to switch it off. Like I had to like tame the beast inside me. I was like, okay, that was unwarranted. I'm going to be positive for like the rest of the day. And I did, you know what I mean? Like it's because I like changed course.
And I think it was also helpful for me to like kind of express how I was feeling in the moment, but not deep dive into it. Cause I just like verbally shared that I was uncomfortable. Like it was in the morning. I'm like, moving kind of slow, but after like we had that tiff, I was like shaking, like, and not like obviously on purpose, but it had triggered my like fight or flight defense. So I think like before, like Olivia 2 years ago might have just kept that to myself, but because of our relationship and because of how close we are, I was like, hey, I'm shaking, like that, like really like affected me. And then we kind of were just like, okay. Went about the day, and then later we hashed it out. But I'm just like, obviously
I was also really hungry in that moment, and that's not an excuse at all, but I literally
it is though it is an excuse.
I had my breakfast burrito, I scarfed it down. I was like, all right, chill the fuck. Like I was also in like a fight or flight sort of stage because like I was super fucking early. I'm taking down 100 props from my apartment. I'm hungry as
we're
fuck.
all just doing our best, and that's what I told her when I had reached back out, is that like, hey, I know you're doing your best. So like you're good.
No, and I'm so blessed to have a friend that gives me the benefit of the doubt while also standing up for themselves, because I feel like
it's such a fine line.
It is. It's such a fine line because, you could have approached it like, hey, you were a fucking shitty friend this morning.
To make you feel bad.
Exactly.
That's
and
the difference.
The first thing was like, hey, I don't want you to feel bad about this because I know it wasn't your intention and it was just a misunderstanding, but I don't want to continue to keep this in. Like, you need to know how it made me feel.
Yeah, it's such a fine balance. And I actually think this is also inspiring like a whole nother episode of just talking about friendships and having really hard conversations to even have a good friendship. Like you can't have a great relationship without having hardships.
Yeah.
So we'll do a deep dive into that too.
No, for sure. And we literally were talking about this like before the episode. Like so many people don't know how to have really hard conversations, and so many people internalize things and keep things in, and it's just so bad for you.
And then they carry it around, and it's like things shouldn't be carried that aren't yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Not yours to hold.
Love that.
I am enlightened.
Okay, wait, we haven't done our highs yet. or a deep dive. We kind of went on a tangent, but I felt like it was important.
It is important.
So what's your high, brother?
My high is that we finally went rock climbing this week, and we haven't gone rock climbing in months, and it's just like such a healthy environment.
I feel like every time we go rock climbing, it's our high. We're like, oh, we went rock climbing.
And it makes me want to go more often because we both don't have nails right now. That's really the reason. We always have fucking long nails.
Look at these stubby motherfuckers.
Oh, no, we're good.
My computer just went to sleep. But yeah.
So this is like
Prime time.
optimal climbing fingernails. And I just feel like it is such a healthy environment for us to be in. We're there for like 3 hours off of our phones, engaging with other people, putting us like
encouraging others,
challenging ourselves, like humbling ourselves. It's just such a healthy fucking hobby. If you have an indoor rock climbing gym next to you or where you're at, it's worth the drive. Even when we lived so far, we would drive it like almost 45 minutes to go to the gym. Well, that's when we were going the most.
That was
we
when
were going like 3 times a week back in like 2019, before COVID. But yeah, that was just.
It's also a great thing to do with like
friends.
With a friend. Like or like if you're dating someone or with a boyfriend or with a best friend, because like you really are instilling trust into this person to make sure that you don't fall off this wall and die.
You're encouraging each other.
Yeah,
you're getting over fears together,
and it's scary. Like it is scary. Like you,
it's
like
so fun.
You are like you're up on this rock, and like sometimes like you have to jump to get the next hold.
And it also just gets your adrenaline. Even if you're not jumping, like your adrenaline is pumping. Like it's very survival, like primal, and it's so fun.
It's so fun to like fall off the wall and just be caught by the rope. Like we love rock climbing.
So yeah, that was definitely a high for me. And then other than that, doing our blend, we had a client blender bombs that we have on retainer. We did our 3rd shoot for them this month, and I'm just so happy with 1, how the day went, and 2, how the photos came out. Like I think it might be one of my favorite shoots to date. We did like a really cute picnic setup, and I'm just happy about that because it's like you have a vision, and then to see it come to life is like so rewarding.
Yeah, and like we went balls to the wall,
of course,
with this fucking shoot. Like every fucking fruit in the book, like just going so hard, and it looks so
extra
cute.
Smoothies and extra blend, like acai bowls in case the other ones melted. Like we just really wanted to execute this perfectly, the best way possible. Yeah, and I think we did. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and the photos are coming out stunning. The models were stunning,
so that's fun.
That was definitely a high for me as well. But aside from that, the shoot went so good. But aside from that, I had such a fun weekend. I went down to Miami one night to meet up with some friends that were in town, and I didn't realize it, but this friend that was in town was there for a bachelor party, which was absolutely hilarious and chaotic, and I just like wasn't expecting it at all. Like I thought that they were there for work. So like I walk up, I like
You're ready to like network.
I know. I go to the penthouse of the SLS, and it is just debauchery. Just
I love that.
Men in bathing suits everywhere, jumping all around the place, just like throwing bottles of 1942 around like it's nothing. So honestly, it was so much fun. Like I have such masculine energy that like I was just accepted so quickly into this bachelor party. Like it was like a day thing, right? So like we're all in like, swimsuits, we're like partying at the SLS. Quickly turns into like night, and they're like, you're coming to 11 with us.
You're coming home with me.
And I'm like, guys, you're on crack. There's no way you're gonna get me.
They recruited you.
No way you're gonna get me to go to 11. Flash forward a couple hours.
At 11.
I'm at 11. And it was honestly so much fun. And like I rarely ever go to like these like super clubs in Miami, but
when you do,
we do it right.
It's a good time, baby.
We were doing it right. They were giving me stacks and stacks of just hundreds, allowing me to do whatever the fuck I wanted. They had 2 tables. I don't know what these guys did for a living. Didn't ask, but it was a good time for me.
Not my business.
And I was also the only girl there, so it was just like so fun.
I love that.
Also, happened to see an old friend, an old pal. Good old pal of mine while I'm there.
Happens to go by the name of
Schman Schmilzarian.
Yeah.
And so I see him at like the next table over, and I tell my friend, I'm like, oh, that's Dan. I know him. So I give Dan a ring. I call him up.
Call my old pal.
And I'm like, hey, I see you. He's like, where are you at? And I'm like, oh, I'm at the table next to you. He's like, all right, come over. So like I go over, and I stayed with him for like 30 minutes. They're putting like the ones in like the money guns, and we're shooting it around, just like, it was even more extravagant over there. I mean, it was just so much fun. Like I met his girlfriend, we were vibing, we're DMing now. It's super sweet. And then I go back to like my table of friends. They're like, what the fuck? They're like, did we just see you call Dan Bilzerian and walk up to his table?
Slight flex.
And I was like, yeah, old
Like,
pal of mine.
That's my boy.
Yeah. And it was just hilarious. It was just such a good time. And I rarely have fun in those environments.
Yeah.
So it is nice.
It's so much about the energy and the people
Oh my
you're
God.
with. If you're not happy with the people you with, you will not have fun in that environment.
And it was so great because like the friend that I was with was like so nice, so kind. Like everyone like made sure that I was comfortable. No one was being weird with me. Like they were just respecting me and it was just a great time.
I'm so glad you had fun because she was debating too. She was like, oh, do I go down to Miami right now? Like, am I about to do this? And it's like, it's a hit or it's like Russian roulette. You don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
Big hit or miss.
Yeah.
And ended up being such a great night.
Ended up being a hit. Love that for you.
Yeah. So that was my high.
Okay. Let's get into our deep dive, which is a segment, if you're new here, that we do every episode, basically talking about a recent collaboration partnership that we've gotten. We talk about how we got the deal, what the deliverables were, and what the rate is, because we believe in rate transparency.
Every time, brother.
Every time.
So I'll do my deep dive.
Okay.
We are actually heading off to the Bahamas this weekend. Tomorrow
morning.
Yeah, early as fuck.
Crack of dawn.
And this is kind of last minute. Someone emailed us like 3 weeks ago and was like, hey, I've been dying to get you to my resort that she represents
on Instagram. She might even listen to the pod. Who knows?
Maybe. Melanie, shout out.
Hey.
So yeah, she emailed us, both me and Olivia, and it's so fun when people like email us both because they know we're just like a fucking package deal. And so yeah, she was like, I'd love to get you guys to our client, Resort World Bimini. This weekend, Iggy Azalea is performing. We're like, cool. I'm like, do we have to go?
I'll pay to not go to her.
Yeah, no, but so we worked out the deliverables with them. It's and we actually added on a tour. We tried to get a larger suite
because as we do,
because we figured our rates are probably more expensive, joined together than the room that they're giving us. So we wanted to get like the best suite we could, especially because if we're going to create content, you just want it to be the best possible.
Looking best.
So first we asked for a suite. They said that they couldn't do that because they were already rented out, which is fine. And then she said, okay, instead of that, I'm going to give you guys separate rooms.
Which is nice.
It is nice. It was a really nice gesture. We don't particularly want to be in separate rooms because
why are we gonna what?
It's supposed to be a sleepover.
It's a slumber party.
It's a slumber party. So we were like, well, shit. If we have an extra room, let's just like try to invite friends. Turns out
we have none. We have zero.
We have 0 friends
who want a free trip to the Bahamas.
I mean, a lot of people were interested, but it was so last minute. Yeah. And a lot of friends were like interested from LA, and like that's a hard flight, to justify when we're getting on a hour-long ferry. So we're bringing my friend Truman, just Truman, and love him to death.
He's the best.
Such a great guy, and he's such good vibes. So I'm happy that it's him. He's fucking stoked beyond measure.
So excited.
So it's fun to like give that opportunity to someone that wouldn't normally get it.
Yes.
But our deliverables are 1 post for Resort World Bimini, like dedicated. And then we also negotiated a tour of the island.
A golf cart tour.
A golf cart tour. And like a lunch on the island. We negotiated that. And so they wanted an additional post for that. And we were like, no. Because how much is the golf cart tour?
Cannot be worth
a post.
$3,000.
Yeah. So we were like, hey, yeah, no. But we'll do like stories. And she was like, well, what you guys can do is your second post can be a reel or a carousel and just include Resort World Bimini in the carousel and the Bahama Ministry of Tourism.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we agreed on, which we would have done anyways, like a little photo dump style.
For sure.
So it's easy for us to execute.
Yeah, and so we're doing that. We get 2 nights stay, and then we also get $100 food and beverage credit every day.
Yes. per
And
person.
yes. Yeah. So super stoked.
Fun.
Really
Yeah.
excited.
A little getaway. I'm hoping that we can find a good, which I know we can, but I'm hoping we can find a good balance of work and play, because low key getting content is work. So I want to be able to like maybe knock that out and then just like bask in the sun for 7 hours.
Or just, do it when it just comes organically.
Naturally. Yeah. Totally.
I mean, thank God Face App exists. If you guys know,
We should do an episode sharing our insider secrets, our industry secrets.
I mean, I feel like we've done that so much.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like the average person does not know about FaceApp.
Well,
We'll do
if
a
you know,
poll.
you know.
If you know, you know. If you don't,
download it.
Okay, so yeah, super excited for that. My deep dive is with Skechers. I don't think I have done this one before. If I have, forgive me. This is my second or third time working with them now, and I have gotten each partnership or campaign through my manager Michael. And yeah, they're just a great client. I feel like I'm a good fit for them because I'm like pretty PG on my Instagram. I'm more, I think, wholesome, and I think that's obviously their target market. They definitely like care about not being sexy. Like in their brief, they explicitly say like no sexiness whatsoever.
They're like
zero sex appeal.
Zero sex appeal.
So got that through him. The deliverables,
and you know what? There's something to be said there about a girl who has OnlyFans and is still booking Skechers with zero sex appeal. So period. OnlyFans will not hold you back.
You can do both.
Period.
So got it through him. The deliverables are 1 in-feed post and 3 stories. And I did it. And the rate for this was 800, I believe. So pretty solid. I reuse the same images for my carousel post for my story. So that
always
is great.
love that.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They didn't say anything about it. Like they didn't care. It didn't have to be like original photos or original
which is
stories.
Nice.
So yeah, super easy, honestly. We knocked it out at one of our locations a few weeks ago and got her done.
Shot the content quick.
Yeah, got her done.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we move into our episode today, we're going to take a moment and thank our show sponsor. All right, guys. So today we're going to tell you about Foreplay. They are a top tier innovator on the lingerie, costume, and swim scene. So with looks featuring trend, intricate design, and overall sexiness, they've created a lane for themselves and dominated the industry.
Aside from cooking up greatness for the brand, the designers of Foreplay create custom pieces for A-list celebrities, entertainers, and world-renowned artists, allowing the consumer the opportunity to wear a style fit for a trendsetter.
Their Instagram is Shop Foreplay, and their website is www.foreplaycatalog.com. They deliver to most countries, except countries in Europe due to their strict shipping policies.
And of course, we have a code for you, so you guys can go get yourselves some little outfits and
to look sexy.
Exactly. Our code is WW20, as in whiskey and water. And guys, go shop. Let us know how you like it.
Yes. So I feel like how we want to start this off is just by like an overarching, because again, everything we talk about is not necessarily going to, I mean, I do think like generally speaking, it does apply to other aspects of everyone's life. And I think it's relatable enough that it will apply even not to like the influencer modeling space. But I think a good like rule of thumb and just standard for everyone to understand right off the bat before we deep dive is that nobody owes you anything, and vice versa. You don't owe anyone anything. And I think on like every case that you ever deal with and interact with people, you should never assume that people have the time or energy to help you. I think that's just a good like standard off the bat.
Yeah. And I feel like that goes for any industry,
any situation, and any relationship. Like
anytime you're asking for any favor.
Obviously, you know, there's context missing. There's a lot of nuanced things like in a relationship, like doing favors, this and that, whatever.
And there can be expectations for like what you want your standards to be, but you also can't necessarily be disappointed if people don't like rise to them. You kind of just have to keep pushing.
Keep it pushing.
Keep it pushing. Find someone that does fit that expectation or that standard. You know what I mean?
Correct. So we broke it down into a few aspects. We're like, okay, for all the times that we've ever been like frustrated that people have come incorrect to us, it's usually when it pertains to our time, our money, our energy, or our boundaries. So I feel like that's a good, I mean, at least for us, that is the most relatable aspects where it's like people just don't fucking get it.
Yeah. And like, so I feel like we can break these down into, each of these like segments, give you guys an example, and basically give an example of what would have been the proper way to go about this. And of course, I think for a lot of you guys that have two brain cells, this is going to sound like common sense, because it is. It's common sense to us. I'd like to think it's common sense to most of you guys, but just in case,
but
there is nuance in certain situations that you just don't realize. That's kind of what this conversation is here to shed light on.
Yeah, that, and also I feel like we've been in enough situations where it's like people who we think would have known better don't.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, maybe this isn't common sense.
Or they just don't give a fuck about our boundaries.
Yeah.
It could be either or.
It's one or the other. But people who I like, would give the benefit of the doubt to them like that. They are respectful and understanding and like wouldn't want to cross the boundary, but they simply just don't know that this is coming incorrect. Like they just aren't aware of the time, how limited our time is, or how it is our income and it is our livelihood to do what you are asking from us to do for free.
Yes.
And you're not working for free, so why should we?
Yes.
So, let's just get into it.
Let's start with time.
Because
I feel like that's a pretty standard one. And like, for example, and like the first example that kind of came to my mind was like when we're shooting. A lot of the times, like when we're shooting for, different brands, or like a lot of time in music videos, I feel like this happens.
Even shoots. I mean, it happens all the time on shoots. And I know it's something where we are extra conscientious about when we're shooting for mood.
And so many of these lessons we have brought over and they have rolled over into our business. And it is stuff that we get commended on every time we shoot with a brand, shoot with the models. Like they're always like, you guys do it so right. And we're like, thank you.
It's because we have been there and we have been on set. We are models. That's why
why we know.
That's why they come to set and have a great experience. It's because it's like, this is what we would have wished for ourselves in so many different scenarios where like people just weren't professional or didn't have good business etiquette on set.
Like we will never come incorrect when it comes to a model, because like we know exactly what the boundaries are. And if a model is high maintenance, like that's on them. And we can confidently say like, oh, that's just a fucking high maintenance model. Like we know we did everything properly. But for example, I remember I was on set for a music video a couple years ago, and it was like me and this other girl that were like the lead talent. And I had given them an hourly rate and not like a set rate, because sometimes like it'll be like, oh, $1,200 for the day or something like that. I like to say hourly, because then there's really no confusion on like, if you go past 4 p.m., I have to be compensated pretty much for every 30 minutes we go over. Like I'll try to be flexible in that way. Like, okay, if we go like, if
I'm
we
not
go
going to invoice you for
10 minutes.
7 minutes.
Even though I should.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like the 30 minutes is like a good rule of thumb. And we were on this shoot and we were nearing the end time, and it was actually a really late shoot. Like it ran till like, I think the end time was like 10 p.m. We're at 9:30. I can clearly see this shot is not ending anytime the fuck soon. So I'm grabbing everyone I see, because no one's coming up to me and saying, hey, we're getting you out of here by 10, I promise. Or no one's saying, hey, we're going to need you here by 11, but we're going to, don't worry about it. Like you just invoice us for, your time, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't go through an agency. It was just through myself. So you have to be your own advocate. And the other girl that was, the lead talent with me also got it booked through herself, but had no idea how to approach this conversation and felt so uncomfortable. So because I was so anal about it.
And that's what they're banking on. I hate to say it.
That is what they're banking on.
A lot of people like won't take advantage of you, but a lot of people also will.
They're just hoping you don't say anything.
They're just knowing that like most models are too afraid to speak up, and they're hoping you won't say anything.
Yeah. And they're like, and then you invoice them for the time later and they're like, well, we agreed on $600 for the day. And it's like, no, what we agreed on was from, 9 to 5. We went, 3 hours over. Just because we had said the day doesn't mean I don't get compensated for the time over. And, again, I feel like, you would think this is common sense, but how like we have experienced this time and time and time again. So I had to grab pretty much everyone in sight because I was really getting no definitive answer. I was like, guys, I want to be a team player. Like, I want, like, because you can't do the shot without me. I'm the lead talent. But I was like, I need you to verbally tell me right now that you are paying me overtime. Like, unfortunately, I cannot do any favors. Like, I'm already here. You know, it's 10 p.m. Like, it's, you know, you've already extended the shoot like once, twice, like. And I was advocating also for the other model. I was like, listen, Anna will be leaving with me if you do not confirm both of us for this overtime. And I had already kind of got the vibe because even when I remember I was like negotiating my rate, they were already kind of cheap. So I was like, I know y'all aren't about to like just try and take advantage of us. So I remember advocating for myself and this model, and then the model messaging me the next day and being like, thank God you were there, because I would have stayed there for hours and not have gotten paid for it. So that's just like one example of like where people will just try to take advantage of your time without definitively coming to you first and saying, hey, I know we're over, but you know, we really need this last shot. Are you able to stay? Like, not even asking, just like demanding that our presence there, as if like I don't have a fucking life.
And how to have good business etiquette. Like, if you are on the other side where you're not the model, but you are someone making those decisions, or even not even, you don't even have to be making those decisions, but you could just be in the room and you could advocate for someone else who you see is clearly being taken advantage of. You know, you could advocate to both sides. You can say, hey, they're only getting paid until 4. What do you want to do about that? And then you can go to the models or whoever is getting paid and say, hey, we're going to get this figured out. But, you know, like,
even if you're not like the person that's in charge, you know, like you can still advocate for those around you. And I know like we've been in so many situations where we have had to advocate for people that it wasn't our job at all.
Yeah. And I think it's just knowing on both sides that like you don't as a model or whoever's getting paid in whatever position, you don't owe anyone 3 extra hours of your time, 3 hours beyond what you already agreed to. You don't owe them that. You don't owe them that favor. You're not invested in their success. Like, you are there. You are hired to do a shoot for that day. Do not feel bad for sticking up for yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's really about like just being able to say no and like putting your foot down. Like it is so hard, but that's when you like get so much of your power back. You know what I mean?
Yes, correct. And then on the other side, don't expect people, they don't owe you their time. Don't expect them to be there doing a favor for you if, you know, they're not getting something out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just like, and it's so much. It's like, it's someone's time, it's someone's energy, and it's someone's money that you're asking them to like
sacrifice,
put you in front of themselves.
Yes. A second thing that I have to say about when it comes to time, like not only like on set where it's like literal time, I guess it would be time the other way too, but I have an example for you guys. I basically, you know, we get doing the podcast, being influencers, putting ourselves out there on many different platforms. We get a lot of people reaching out to us, which is so great. We love when you guys reach out. But a lot of people reach out asking for knowledge and asking for a mentorship and asking for us to share like what we've learned in this journey or how we've gotten to where we've gotten. So that can get frustrating when we have an entire podcast that we've been doing for 2 years. We have hundreds of episodes and we have shared our industry secrets, our knowledge. We have invested hundreds of hours into this show right here. And I'm so thankful because then we have something to hand these people and say, hey, this is an amazing resource for you. Take a deep dive into it. We share about everything about how we've gotten here, right?
We'll even make it so fucking easy as to send them the exact episodes of what they're asking for.
That they should listen to.
Which is like, I feel like that's even more than we should be doing because it's like you can just scroll through and find, but like, you know, we want to see you, you know, actually do it. So it's like we go through, we find the episodes that we feel like would resonate with whatever you're asking for, whether it's wanting to become an influencer or whatever it is. So it's like, you know, we try to like go to the extra step, and obviously, like, you know, if you had the sense, you could just literally go to our profiles, see that we have the podcast, see what it's about, and then go. But
right. So I got reached out to a few days ago, and someone had asked, and this happens pretty often where people are like, hey, I would love to meet up with you over coffee or over lunch, and pretty much
pick your brain.
Pick your brains, which I can totally understand how innocent that may seem of a request to ask someone, but I think it's really important that everyone, before reaching out to someone who you want advice from, take a deep dive into who they are, what they do, what they already offer as resources before reaching out,
and see what value you can
could bring
provide
to the table. So,
because like this is a random person who, you know, I guess, you know, is a fan, is an admirer, which we appreciate so much.
Like that's why we're here, is to give you guys this mentorship.
Yeah, but messaged us and was like, yeah, would love to just grab coffee and pick your brain. And it's like, I don't even grab coffee with my family. Like, I don't have time for lunch with my family.
Yeah.
And you're just asking me to sit down with you and give you a free mentor session. Which is what they didn't say. And I want you guys to understand, like, they didn't come correct in this message. They weren't like, totally understand that you guys are so busy, but if you ever find the time, it wasn't like I do XYZ and I would love to intern for you, or, you know, like they were providing zero value to us.
Or coffee on me.
Not even like would love to buy you coffee for 30 minutes of your time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times maybe people just don't understand how busy we are. And I really hope you guys know us and hear this and don't think that we're like, oh, we're just so busy, like busy bragging, you know, like we're never busy bragging. We're just,
if we could be less busy, we would. But it's not fun.
Sharing our truth of like, I don't have time to get coffee with friends. And if I do, it's like someone who I'm really close with that I'm intentionally carving time out of my day to make sure we're catching up, not someone that I've never met before on the internet. And again, I don't want anyone to feel bad about this because I genuinely, like, I know it's not intentional, but if you ever are asking someone for their time, you need to offer something in return,
which is just good business etiquette. And I've heard this on a million podcasts, and that's why I know it, and that's why I feel confident preaching it. Like,
it's just good social skills.
Of course. And if there's someone that's like at your, not like at your level, but, you know, like if there was another Miami influencer who, you know, was in our space, maybe had a podcast, maybe had their own agency, which, like, the other day we met up with our friend Abby from Tone and we did have coffee with her, but that was a mutually beneficial, actually she gave us so much information, but like it was a mutually beneficial conversation.
It wasn't asking something from us.
No. And she even like offered. So it's like, I think that, like, you know, reaching out to others, but like when you're intentionally reaching out to someone with the intention of getting something out of them, which she was like, would love to sit down and talk to you guys and learn and, you know, pick your brains. It's like, well, what do we get out of this? We understand what we get out of it, which is providing value to others, but that's why we have a podcast with 123 episodes. Like, just listen to that. That's why we have this platform, and that's why we love it, because we get to do it on our own terms.
Is so that we can give to our community and so that we can teach others. So it's like, if we sat down with and oh God, I feel so bad saying this because it sounds so like, if we sat down with everyone that reached out to us, like we literally wouldn't have time to do anything for ourselves.
I mean, but even think as you guys and yourselves, like whatever you guys have going on, whatever small business you guys have going on, or if you're whatever company you're running or position that you're in,
or if you're in school and someone's like, hey, would love like for you to tutor me a few days of the week. It's like, you don't owe anyone that.
Yeah. And you're like, in the time that I do have, why would I want, like, I would love to just, I haven't sat down at the beach for months. Yeah. You know how much I would love to do that instead?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So even like the real estate podcast that I listen to, Bigger Pockets, like they always are like, if you ever reach out to someone for mentorship, which they highly encourage, like mentorship is amazing.
But it's so valuable.
You have to make sure you are bringing something to the table. You have to make sure that you've done your research on the person and already know what they're offering and putting out there.
Yeah. Be like, hey, we've listened to, if you're going to, you know, reach out to someone that you admire, like let's say that I reached out to, you know, like a huge influencer that I admire, and they had a podcast, I'd be like, hey, I have listened to every single podcast episode that you have out. Like, I love this. Here are some things that, you know, either I feel like you could make a podcast episode about because, you know, I would love to learn more about it, or, you know,
show people that you have already invested into them before asking something from them.
Yeah.
I think that's the main takeaway here.
Yeah. And even so, a podcast I listen to and I've talked about with you guys is Rob Dial, and he's incredible. He has like mentorship, you know, master classes and, you know, all these things going on. And one of the first things I learned about like reaching out to others was like, it could be really as simple as he said that a tactic that he used in the past to get mentorship was like he went on LinkedIn and messaged all these people that, you know, he wanted to connect with and said, listen, I would love to Venmo you $10 right now for a coffee so that I can have a 10-minute phone call with you. And like, I feel like that's coming correct. You know, you show this person that you understand that they are, you know, valuable. You understand that you know, respect their time and their knowledge.
Totally. And it's, I think it's really just offering something in exchange for something else. Like, just don't ask someone a favor without offering something in return.
And
I feel like it's pretty common sense.
When I literally, and this is just like about this person that DM, but it's in general, but like if I literally don't know you at all, like, they're like this person, like
not even a mutual friend.
I've had people reach out, not even introducing themselves. Hey, would love to do XYZ. I'm like, who the fuck are you?
And why on planet Earth would I give you my time?
You didn't even tell me your name.
Time and energy. Yeah, it's actually wild. Okay, so I feel like that's a good recap on that. I hope you guys got some value out of that.
I hope you guys understood where we were like coming from and understand our intentions with that. Like we're not out here like bitching that people want to like
learn from us. I love that.
Yeah, that makes us so happy. And
just
again,
do it the right way.
And when we receive the DM, it like part of it, it's like a half and half. It's like, that's so sweet. And like I appreciate so much that this person wants to take their time and learn from us and sees us as a, you know, valuable, you know, person that they could learn from. Like that means a lot that they even kind of think that of us. Yeah. Because we obviously have major imposter syndrome all the time. Yeah. But part of us is also like, if I fucking could, I would, you know,
yes,
like
correct.
So
I also think it's really important that when someone does give you their time, that you express verbally or by an act of service or gifting, whatever your love language is. I think it's so important that you show them your appreciation for their time.
Yeah, because we don't always tell everyone like, no, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we do go out of our way to help people out, help them get ahead.
A friend, you know?
Yeah, like a friend or an acquaintance. Like I have friends of friends text me all the time that are like, hey, you know, they're a new influencer. They're trying to learn. So like, yeah, we do go out of our way to help people as much as we can.
We do what we can. Yeah. I can honestly vouch for ourselves and say when we have the time and bandwidth and energy.
And when people come correct.
We do what we can, even if they don't. I feel like I still do what I can because I just want to always be as helpful to everyone as much as I can. Like, I definitely am a giver in that way where it's like, if I have that bandwidth, I will, you know, offer it.
Catch me at the right moment and I'll send you any fucking thing I can.
Right. So for example, another example on this, and then we'll move on to the next pillar of business etiquette. But a friend of mine, we get a lot of questions about OnlyFans, honestly. And a lot of girls are curious about that. I had a friend reach out regarding starting a podcast, which I would love to, you know, we also do have a podcast episode dedicated to how to start a podcast, but you know, whatever. We do what we can when we can, right? So she had reached out and I hadn't gone back to her for like a day just because I was busy, but it was on the top of my mind I prioritized that, you know, and I didn't have to, but I did. So I sent literally like 10
fucking voice notes.
Minute long voice notes explaining as much as I could in the time that I had everything about starting a podcast, from how we did it to the equipment that we use to how we plan to how we get guests to how we get sponsors. Like this is literally a mentorship.
Could have been a podcast episode itself.
Could have been a podcast episode. So I send this to her. I don't hear back for days. And she listened to them.
You can see that it was read.
Just left me feeling super taken advantage of. And I know that wasn't her intention, but like if someone sat down and sent me 10 voice notes, the way I would send them an edible arrangement,
dude,
the way I would show them my gratitude for the time that they took out of their precious day.
Like if anyone did that for anything, I think that it's like, it's just common, like at the very least, like I'm so sorry. Like I just listened to this. I can't get back to you right now, but I'm give me like, you know, one second.
I'm so busy, but I'll get back to you. Thank you so much.
It's that simple, brother.
I was ghosted.
She literally didn't fucking respond
for weeks.
Yeah.
And I followed up because I was
I
like,
kept following up with Olivia because she told me, and I was like,
did that bitch get back to you
I was like, you better text her and be like, good fucking talk.
Yeah. And I was just like, hello, like crickets. And it just really left such a bad taste in my mouth and made me honestly want to like not do that again with anyone, because I was like, I just totally like was not appreciated at all for not only like my time, but also my knowledge of being 2 years into a fucking successful podcast and sharing that with you.
Yeah, like that's such valuable information.
Yeah, you could have just Googled it, like, and looked up a YouTuber's advice on it. Like, I didn't have to sit here and take time and energy out of my day for when it wasn't even appreciated.
And even kind of like to piggyback off of that, like, I feel like obviously Olivia said like what she would have done in that situation was just like, one, send a great thank you, two, perhaps even send an edible arrangement. You know what I mean? Like
we stay sending flowers.
We send so many flowers and edible arrangements. Like we had a friend who works in like the social media industry refer us to a client that we now have, and
we sent her flowers.
We sent her a fucking beautiful bouquet of flowers, and we were like, thank you so much. She's like, oh my God, you guys didn't have to do that. And we're like,
we don't have to, but we want to, because it's so important to show people that they are appreciated
and valued.
And I think this could be a whole other pillar, is just like when you having, and I guess it takes the awareness to even have those moments, but like show people that you work with and that they work with, even outside of work, family, friends. If someone extends themselves, it is nice to give them a token of appreciation. You don't even have to spend money on it. It can be a thank you card, you guys. It does not have to be expensive. It does not have to be extravagant. Send a fucking thank you card or just a nice text message saying how much you appreciate them and their time and energy.
And even a lower investment than like a bouquet of flowers, because it does get pricey to do that, and it does get pricey to send edible arrangements. Send them a digital Starbucks gift card.
A $20 gift card.
If you hop on a phone with, you know, a friend who's like a mentor to you, send them a $20 fucking Starbucks gift card.
It is really the little things that mean the world. And
Are you kidding me?
Being on the receiving end of those gestures, it just means the absolute world.
It's because people don't do that. So like it's gonna really set you apart.
Yes.
In any aspect. And it's a move for yourself, you know what I mean?
Like, it's a networking like move.
Yeah, and although like it's because you're doing it out of like the kindness of your heart, and like because you genuinely appreciate it, it's a reflection of you as a person.
Yes. And it does, like you said, I think you said it perfectly. It sets you apart. So like if you are trying to build a relationship with someone and you do these small gestures, it's going to mean the world to them. And to them, when they think of you, they're going to remember those things that you did, how you showed your kindness, how you went out of your way to show them your appreciation. And it's going to make them want to give you more of their time, more of their knowledge, and just have you like more in their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I can speak for myself. Like if someone were to
show their appreciation in that way.
Yeah. I mean, my love language is gift receiving.
I will take a Gucci bag. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, actually, funny that you fucking mention it.
What?
This I had a friend who like was trying to like become a artist, musician, and a few years ago I helped him run a small influencer campaign where I booked Olivia, I booked Alexa, like all of our influencer friends to post a story with his song. And I did that out of the kindness of my heart because he was paying me for my stories and I was getting all of my friends paid. So I was like, easy. Like I would love to get my friends paid. He was like, hey, what's your address? I'm going to send you a gift. He sent me a Dolce & Gabbana t-shirt. Like, that's period. So nice. What a king.
That's so nice.
What a king.
Okay, we definitely divulged into that. Let's move on to money. When it comes to money, I think like a good standard for this is just not like seeing time equates to money.
Yes.
For everything.
Yeah.
Like, and offering that.
Honestly, and I feel like there's like even, it kind of goes beyond that because sometimes I would pay money not to give my time. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like you get to this point where like your time, and obviously, I mean, like we're not necessarily there, but there are definitely situations in which we turn down like time where consuming things because even if they're compensated, because it's like, we would rather be decompressing at home.
Yeah. So it gets to a point once money isn't necessarily
enough,
a necessity, or not a necessity, but like it gets to a point where time becomes a more valuable asset than money.
Yes.
And that is like a very privileged place to be.
Yeah, but imagine like it's between hanging out with your family that you don't see often and doing a shoot. It's like the time is more valuable than the money at that point.
Yeah, and no, if of assuming you have your bills paid and everything paid,
it's
and
a privilege
handled.
to be able to do that
Yes.
at all.
So I think that's definitely something to take into consideration. It's just like time is our most valuable asset. We don't get time back, and it is fleeting. With that being said, we like to go, we have this standard of paying everyone for everything. And if we're not paying them monetarily, we're paying them in knowledge. Like our interns were very intentional. I mean, now I think we have gotten better at it. We weren't great at it in the past, but we are very intentional about making sure that in exchange for their efforts and their time, they are learning something from us.
And that they're enjoying their experience.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to sit here and run them into the ground because that's not fair to do. But we are going to do things that they want to learn about. Like we hop on weekly calls to discuss anything. We're constantly giving them constructive criticism on like how to better themselves.
And I think a good advice for you guys is that never people who do what you're like, if you're asking a friend a favor and it's something they do for free, if you're like, oh, I know a photographer, he could definitely like shoot this for free. Always offer to pay someone, even if they're your friend. We pay our friends that are super close to us. We pay our friends who are videographers. We would never ask them to do something for free.
We needed a last minute location the other day, like for a video. And we texted our friend Allie who owns Monse Swim. And we were like, hey, we need a last minute location as a storefront. We're happy to pay you a location fee. Like, just let us know what it is. And she was like, absolutely not. She like texted her girls. She was like, hey,
no, absolutely not. It's an absolutely, I won't take your money, but absolutely you can come and shoot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think it's just a good business practice to like always offer
compensation.
Yeah.
And even if it's, I understand like not everyone has that luxury, but even if it's a little bit, even if it's like, you know, less than what you would want, like I wouldn't even be embarrassed of it. I think most people would appreciate the gesture of you even offering money.
Yeah. Like, I mean, when we first started out and like we're shooting mood, and even like when I was just taking on like photography clients and like I was hiring Olivia, I was paying Olivia because I was like, that's not fair to ask, even though she's like my best friend, it's like even more the reason to pay her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even all the shoots that we've done for Mood, like when we need to hire a photographer and a videographer, we call our friends. We're like, hey, what's your rate?
It's your rate?
It's never come shoot us. It's always what's your rate? And I think that's just a good standard for everyone to hear, no matter what position or favor you're asking.
Unless this person has like, you know, offered in the past and you're like, hey, you know, could really use that, because I offer to shoot like my friends all the time. Like my cousin Ashley came yesterday to our shoot and like I shot photos of her. And of course, like I would never charge her, nor would, you know, I ever expect her to be like, what's your rate? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also it's different. It's nuanced when it's a creative exchange, when it's like when you're speaking about doing a trade of services. So it's like, you know, back in the day when we were doing a lot of modeling, like we would shoot with photographers because they needed models to shoot and we needed photographers to shoot us.
Yeah. It was always the funniest thing when they hit you up for the trade. And they were like, yeah, it's going to be actually like $200 an hour. And I was like,
we were like, that's weird.
That's so weird. I thought we were like literally just discussing a trade.
Which is fine because obviously like, no,
you don't have to work for free.
But that is, you know, a scenario where you don't necessarily have to offer it if it's like obvious that it's like a trade of services.
Yeah. Exactly.
I have a quick example of this. We have a previous Mood client of ours and someone that we've honestly just have a relationship with for the past few years. Sweetest person. And that's why this is a perfect example of like, I do give the benefit of the doubt that had she known better, she would never intentionally try to take advantage. But ultimately, she has a few restaurant clients and is kind of asking us to do favors where, you know, we are bringing people to these clients to have like a fun dining experience, which is all well and good and fun, but that happens to be a service that we offer through our agency. So it's things like that where it's like, make sure you're looking at what someone does for work and the services that they offer and that you're not asking for a free service ultimately.
Yeah. And this could kind of go for like anything, you know, like it could go for whatever industry you're in. Because it's like, oh, well, like this should be so much like fun for you. And you're like, it is so much fun for me. That's why I made it my job.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I do this for my job.
It's like asking a waitress to serve you for free if you're like friends with them. I don't know. That I'm just trying to like find an example.
I mean, I think that like, or it's like asking like a trainer that like you're friends with to train you for free when it's like, and they're like, oh, well, you love working out. This should be so great for you to come and host a workout class. And they're like, oh, I do love what I do. 100% would love to do that.
But that's how I pay my bills.
It's literally how I pay my bills.
Yes. So.
And it's like, yes. And it's okay to like do things like that you like love and get paid for it. You know what I mean? Like it, like that's the goal.
Yes,
that's the end goal here. Like, and I feel like we kind of get not shamed into doing things, but guilted into doing things because we love doing them. And it's like, people are like, oh, well, this should be so easy for you. Like you love doing it. And it's like, yes, but it is my job.
Yes.
It's not like, and my job should continue to be taken seriously, like not just because I love it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Good point. Okay. The last one that we're going to cover is, I feel like we had like discussed, we kind of covered energy. All these really go hand in hand. Yeah. So like energy is really involved with like time and money. It's like that kind of same concept of asking people for their energy without anything in return is coming in correct. So even if it's not like something that they would typically get paid for, even if it's, you know, asking for their time, if it's asking for their energy and mental bandwidth, that's also something to take into consideration. A great example of this is we reached out recently, for those of you who have been listening, you know that we're doing this like summer PR gifting box. And there are some copywriting aspects of this project that we needed help with. So we had reached out to our friend Alex. Shout out him. We actually had him on the podcast and that was such a funny episode. But we thought of him for copywriting because he's just so great with puns and just killing it. Just in general with words, he's great at that, which I obviously am not, and that's why I'm rambling. But we had reached out and he pretty much said like, hey, I don't really have the bandwidth for like this project, whatever. And then we came back and said, okay, well, if it was half of the work, is that something you would be open to? And he again was like, I would really love to.
Well, I mean, at first he did like try to make it happen. Yeah. And then I think he realized he was too busy and he was like, I wouldn't be able to put out the quality of work that I would want to. Yeah. In order that you guys deserve to take on this project. And
it's honestly something that, in our opinion, wouldn't take a lot of time. Like, I think in my head, I'm like, okay, time-wise, this might take 1 to 2 hours, but it was respecting his boundary about his bandwidth. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people don't take that into consideration. Like they think of time and bandwidth as one of the same thing.
And people are like, oh, well, it'll only take you an hour. It'll only
30 minutes.
Yeah. Or, you know, we're willing to pay your rate. And it's like, well, I don't have the band. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's about what I want to do.
And maybe, what you want to do. And I think maybe not everyone can relate to being at a place of being like so burnt out. I mean, I think everyone gets stressed out. So actually, no, I think everyone can relate, even if it's not having to do with work stuff, but like you get to a point where you are close to a burnout and you don't have, like I was saying, my mom called me the other day to talk about therapists that I had sent, like a few different therapist options that I wanted to start with. And I was putting socks away in my drawer and I was like, I don't even have the bandwidth to have this conversation about therapist options. And I was like, I can't have this conversation. I have to call you tomorrow or the next day to go over it. But I think it's just respecting people's energy in that way is super, super important. So when he said no, as the second time, as disappointed as we were, I totally understand. Because it's like, he doesn't even have the mental space to even consider what this might take.
The scope of it.
The scope of work, which is like, we get it. And we would never
want to overstep that boundary because we respect him and his work and his mental health more than that. You know what I mean?
I think it's when people say no, respecting that. And that leads us into a good topic of boundaries. But did you want to add something?
I mean, I just wanted to add that, you know, again, we understand that this is like a very privileged conversation because someone that's in a 9 to 5 and is working, you know, to try and, you know, get a promotion or to impress their boss doesn't necessarily have the option to say no to a project because it's like, you know, you'll get fired or, you know, like, you know, you have this expectation and you're trying to, you know, impress someone or, you know, you have people that are like, you know, like, what is it? Like laying on relying. I said,
Relying
I
on you.
wanted to say relaying. They're relying on you. So again, we do understand this is nuanced and it's privileged and it won't apply to everyone. But if you are in a position where you're maybe freelancing,
Yeah.
this is where that would apply to you.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to boundaries, which I think is like obviously also goes hand in hand with a lot of this. And I hope it doesn't sound repetitive, but you can tell we haven't done a Just Us episode in a while. We're like, is this even good?
So all this to be said, and we hope this wasn't like too repetitive. We kind of wanted to break it into like these different, facets of business so that you guys can just thoroughly understand what is going through someone else's mind when you're asking a favor of them. It's like, okay, what is this affecting? My time, my money, and my energy. And to kind of speak from the side of a creator or a freelancer, whatever it is, no is your superpower. No is your superpower. You don't have to feel bad for saying no. Once you start saying no, so many things start aligning that you want to say yes to. And this kind of goes for like pretty much anything in life. Like saying no to something that isn't aligned with you right now, or that you simply do not want to do because you don't have the bandwidth, or the rate is not, up to par, or, it's going to require too much time. Once you start saying no to these things, so many things will start aligning that are completely just in alignment with what it is you're seeking. Like, you're going to get rates that are like just so much more worth your time. You're going to be working with people who understand your boundaries and get it, and are never going to never going to be like calling you at like 11 p.m. to like, see where their photos are, and whatever these little nuances are. Like, you're just going to be start to manifest your dream clients because you're turning down people that aren't in alignment with you.
And I think in general, like our last aspect here was boundaries, like to talk about and just having like good business etiquette and not crossing people's boundaries and respecting people's boundaries. I feel like everything throughout this episode, like time, money, energy, is about drawing boundaries and respecting boundaries.
It's all boundaries.
It all is about that. And we do have some good examples of just like being on set. Like, for example, I did a commercial a few years ago where the last scene, they sprung upon after like we were already overtime, after already doing things that we were a little uncomfortable with. Like, they wanted us to be super sexy, and it was just like not what we signed up for. And the last scene, they tell us all we're jumping in the pool, and we're like, wait, what? And I actually do feel like I've talked about this before on another podcast too, Let's Talk Peaches. I really went in depth about this situation because it was a pivotal moment for me in standing up for myself and drawing a boundary.
Saying no.
And saying no, and under a lot of pressure too, because it was in front of an entire crew of like 30
of people who want you to be a fucking team player,
30 plus people and cast. And I was the person talking on behalf of a 10-person cast saying, we're not doing this. It wasn't in.
You're like, it's cold as fuck. It's 10 p.m. We're all like going straight home after this.
And when it was one of those like last straw type of moments, had they asked us in the beginning of the day, we probably would have been more open to it. But usually when it comes to things like that, it's like we will have been made aware of things like this. Like, if they came correctly, if they had good business etiquette and good fucking social skills, they would have been like, let's give the cast a heads up and make sure they're okay with having the last scene be them jumping in the pool. That is something that is like would be standard in the industry, is just giving talent a heads up about these things.
Yeah, it's like telling someone that you get on set and they're like, hey, you're actually going to be making out with another cast member. You're like, well, what the fuck? I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, so it was one of those things, and I had to be the person to say, no, we're not doing this unless, one, you guys pay us more, or, I mean, that was the only thing we could use as leverage at that point, is like, I don't know, pay us all $500 more because this wasn't agreed upon and you didn't give us the heads up. So, and that for me was a big boundary, because it's like, you want to be a team player. You want to be
easy to work with.
You don't want to be a diva, and you want to help them, finish the project and help them get this awesome shot. But also, you don't owe them that. You owe them what you agreed upon on that given rate. So I think just understanding, like, if I were on the other side, if I were a producer, I would have empathized with talent and been like, I know we didn't prepare you guys for this. And I know that's where we slipped up. And I think that's a huge thing of like,
can't just expect it from people.
Yeah. And recognizing like and owning up to where you could have done better and sympathizing with whoever is on the other side. Like that is good business etiquette. And I think that's an uncomfortable conversation to have and to fess up that you messed up. But the other side will appreciate it so much more because they'll feel seen and validated and not like gaslit that they're being like that they're the ones being crazy, you know? Like I think acknowledging where people are at and in their discomfort is really important.
It is. Or just giving people like the option, you know, like don't try to force it on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
like give people the space to say no. Like I was at an event a couple of years ago. Like I was flown out for an event and it wasn't paid, like it was just for fun. It's a few years ago. And during this like event, like they have a professional photographer on set and they're like, hey, like we're gonna have you holding up like this product and like doing this and like, oh, can you do this again? And can you actually like come over here? We're gonna like take some shots. Actually, would you mind changing? I like let it slide for the first couple. I was like, yeah, let me be a team player. Let me hold up this fucking chapstick and, you know, be a fucking team player. And then it was like in 2 hours later and I was like, guys, respectfully, no, I get paid for this. Like
this is a whole other service that I offer.
Like I understand you guys flew me out here. This is so fun, whatever. Like I'm so grateful to be here. However, I get flown out for shoots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also you were booked as an influencer, not as a model.
I was booked as an influencer, not a model.
So if you're doing two people's jobs, if you're doing two roles, you should be receiving two
exactly.
rates.
Because I'm already doing your job. I'm already posting, like, and I wasn't getting paid for my posts. Like it was, again, like it was an exchange. So it's like, I wasn't getting paid at all. And even if I had been getting paid for my posts, I would have been a little bit more flexible, but I wasn't. So and to what Olivia said was like, you know, you don't want to be a diva. I am team fucking diva.
No, you're not though.
I try to level.
It's reason. It's under reasonable terms.
I understand. But like, I'm just saying I am team diva. Like if I see another bitch being a diva on set, I'm like, girl, I feel you. Stand up for
within reason.
Of course. You know, you guys understand and know us.
A reasonable diva.
But you know, like I am team. It's more diva on like the brand side. Like if you're going to consider me a diva for standing up for myself, oh, so fucking be it. You know what I mean? Like if I have to be perceived as a diva to stand up for myself in this moment,
have boundaries.
And I know in that moment there was a split second where it was the photographer. It wasn't even necessarily the company, right? It was a photographer who I assume had deliverables. She had a job to do. She was like trying to pull me aside. She's like, hey, we're going to get a transition video.
They had like a shot list.
A whole shot list. She was like, hey, we're going to get a video of you walking and then we're going to do a transition when you get back upstairs. So like, and I was like, honestly, no. I literally just looked at her and I was, you know, I was at my wit's end. You know what I mean? I had already kind of given the vibe that I wasn't down. So like I tried to, you know, I tried to have them read the room. But unfortunately, I had to be like, hey, no, I'm actually just gonna go upstairs. I'm not gonna do that video. And like I just said it very bluntly. And she like turned around on her heel and was like, okay. And I talked to the company about it after. And I was like, I'm sorry. I just really needed to go upstairs. Like, I just wasn't trying to do that. She was like, it's totally fine. She was like, you don't like, if you're done taking photos, like, you don't have to take photos. And like, so it's like, I wish they would have said that before.
Yeah. Yeah. That should have been an option given prior to you having to like defend yourself.
Put my foot down. Yeah. But it was nice that like they understood how I felt about it and then did not want to make me feel like a diva. They were like, because they knew that they were overstepping though.
Yes.
You know, like they knew that they were pushing the envelope a little bit. So it's like, at least, and we were super cool about it. And guess what? The photographer didn't fucking bother me all weekend.
Love that.
Of course I did some group shots. I was a team player the rest of the weekend. Like I brushed it off, but like I wasn't doing the most the rest of the weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm proud of you.
And then it like also gave me the space to like enjoy the rest of the weekend without being like anxious about it, about being a diva and like being perceived that way, because I knew that they were going to continue to get photos all weekend. So it's like, you know, it allowed me to have a good time because I put my foot down and I stood up for myself.
Period, brothers.
Period.
Okay. I feel like we definitely did. Man, solo episodes are fucking hard. I forgot how hard they are because we're so used to having guests and we go back and forth and we like they're the star of the show.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to continue to be more of a challenge, but I feel like it's going to
be good.
I feel like we needed
Hopefully-
the podcast challenge.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are still with us an hour and a half later. But I hope you guys honestly found value out of this. I feel like it's stuff that a lot of people struggle with. And, you know, we're always going to be the ones to tell you to fucking stand up for yourself and set those boundaries and say no to people.
And protect your time, money, and energy.
Because that's what we do, baby.
Protect your energy.
We love you guys so much. If you enjoyed this episode and you know, I know you're thinking of someone who needs to hear this advice, go send that. Go send this to that person right now as we're speaking and let them know that, hey, I think this will be helpful for you and that you will enjoy this episode. Take a screenshot. Let us know you loved it. Let us know you're listening. Let us know that you're so excited for our solo season. And I think that's it. We love you guys. We will see you next week for another episode and have a kick-ass week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.